You know that feeling, right? That little lift you get when you hear something genuinely good.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Maybe it's like a friend getting that job they wanted, or you finally finish a small project, or maybe just seeing a headline that doesn't feel heavy.
Especially now, yeah. When you feel like you're just swimming in difficult news sometimes.
Exactly. And that positive moment, it feels, I don't know, really powerful. It makes you wonder, what is it about good news, about these moments of light and hope? How does it actually affect us? Not just, making you smile for a second, but deeper down in our brains, our bodies.
Well, that contrast, that feeling you're describing, the weight versus the light, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Right. We had a listener send in a bunch of sources specifically asking about this idea, the happiness of hearing good news, moments of light and hope.
Okay, great topic. What kind of material are we looking at?
It's a real mix. We've got stuff on the psychology, some pretty surprising science on actual brain and body reactions to good news.
Oh, interesting. The hard science.
Yeah, and then there's this fascinating work on how emotions spread through social networks almost invisibly.
Emotional contagion stuff. Yeah. Always intriguing.
Exactly. And also really practical things, strategies for, building a more positive outlook, and crucially cultivating real hope.
Okay, so a broad look, from brain chemistry to practical steps.
That's the plan. Our mission here is really to unpack all this, see what the research actually tells us about the tangible power of positive information and hope.
Understand how it works, basically.
Yeah, how seeking it out, sharing it, internalizing it, how that can genuinely impact your well-being, your resilience, and maybe even ripple outwards a bit.
So think of this as the shortcut to understanding the real practical power behind positivity and hope, all based on the research provided.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into it. Where do we start?
Well, let's start right inside. The immediate impact. What actually happens in your brain and your body when you encounter something positive.
Okay, like the moment you hear that good news.
Precisely. And one of the sources kicks off with this really compelling idea, almost like a basic principle for how we function internally.
Which is?
It introduces this concept of the good brain. The idea is that information isn't just abstract data floating around. It directly affects our physical brain.
Okay, so information changes the brain itself.
Yeah, think of it like your brain has this brain operating system, or BOS, as the source calls it. And a key rule of this system is that positive information makes positive changes.
Positive changes how?
It literally influences your brain waves, the state of your brain cells. When your brain gets positive input, it's nudged towards its optimal state.
Optimal meaning?
More productive, feeling more peaceful, better connection with others, more creative. It helps create what the source terms these good brains.
So it's not just about thinking happy thoughts in some vague way. The actual information we take in physically alters how our brain works.
Exactly. It's a physiological process.
And
the sources dive deeper here, right into the neuroscience.
Okay, let's talk chemicals.
Right. Hearing good news or seeing something positive, even just reading about someone overcoming a challenge, this triggers positive emotional states because it makes your brain release specific neurotransmitters.
The chemical messengers.
Exactly. The chemical messengers that make you feel and function differently.
Okay, walk us through the main ones. Which chemicals are we talking about, and what do they actually do?
All right, so you've got a few key players. First up, probably the most famous one, dopamine.
Ah, yes, the feel-good chemical.
Okay, it's called that, but it's more nuanced. It's really central to the brain's reward system. It drives your motivation, gives you that sense of pleasure, that satisfaction when you achieve something.
So when you accomplish a goal?
Yeah, any goal. Big project, small task on your to-do list. When you hit that target, you get a dopamine release. That little yes feeling you get, that's dopamine. And it reinforces the behavior that led to the success. Makes you want to do it again.
So it's tied to motivation and learning, too, not just happiness.
Precisely. It pushes you forward. Then there's serotonin. This one's a really crucial mood stabilizer.
Stabilizer.
Yeah, it helps promote feelings of contentment, calm, relaxation, just general emotional well-being. It's also linked to things like good sleep.
Okay. And how do we influence serotonin?
Interestingly, practices like gratitude seem to help. Taking a moment to genuinely appreciate something good that's not just a nice mental exercise, it can actually support your serotonin pathways, nudging your brain toward a more stable, relaxed state.
Gratitude boosting serotonin. That feels like a really practical link. Okay, what else?
Next is oxytocin. Often gets called the love hormone or the cuddle chemical.
Right, involved in bonding.
Deeply involved. Social bonding, building trust between people, fostering empathy. It gets released during moments of positive connection.
Like a hug or a good conversation.
Exactly. Hugs, heartfelt talks, helping someone out, even just sharing a genuine laugh with someone you care about. It explains why those positive interactions feel so good, so inherently rewarding. They literally strengthen the bonds chemically.
So feeling connected, supporting someone, sharing joy, that actually creates a physical, chemical reinforcement for the relationship.
It absolutely does. It cements those connections. Then we also have endorphins.
The runners, high ones?
That's the classic example, yeah. They're your body's natural painkillers and stress relievers. They can produce feelings of euphoria, released during physical activity, definitely.
But not just running.
No, and this is wonderful. They're also released through laughter.
Laughter, seriously.
Seriously. A really good belly laugh feels therapeutic for a reason. It's a natural endorphin release, helping ease pain and boost your mood.
Okay, adding laugh more to my exercise routine.
Got it. Good plan. And finally, there's GABA. That's gamma-aminobutyric acid.
GABA, what does that one do?
GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Basically, it calms things down in the brain. It helps quiet the mental chatter, reduce anxiety, promote relaxation. It's really important for counteracting stress.
And can we influence GABA levels?
Yes. Things like meditation, focused breathing exercises, these practices can stimulate GABA production. They help shift you out of that anxious fight or flight mode towards a state of calm.
Okay, so when we experience something positive, good news, a nice interaction, achieving something, it's not just a feeling, it's this whole cocktail of chemicals, isn't it?
It's a complex biochemical cascade, exactly. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, GABA, all working together, influencing your mood, your motivation, how connected you feel, your stress levels, your whole mental state.
And the sources mention something about a feedback loop.
Right. This is key. Positive thoughts and emotions, fueled by that positive information, they create a positive feedback loop. Releasing these chemicals makes you feel good, which encourages more positive thoughts, which releases more chemicals.
And it actually changes the brain over time.
That's the neuroplasticity part. It helps shape your neural pathways.
Yeah.
Your brain literally gets better, more efficient at processing and generating positivity. The more you practice it, the more positive input it receives.
Wow. That's really powerful. It means we're not just passive recipients. We can actively shape our brain's function by choosing what we focus on.
Precisely. And this impact, it goes way beyond just brain chemistry and mood. The sources draw really clear lines between positive emotions, positive information, and your physical health.
Physical health? Like how specifically?
Well, it sounds almost too good to be true sometimes. But a more positive outlook, nurtured by positive inputs, is linked to tangible things like a stronger immune system.
Really? Your immune system?
Yes, improved immune function. Also, reduced chronic inflammation throughout the body, and inflammation is linked to so many diseases.
Like heart disease, diabetes.
Exactly. Lower risk factors for conditions like heart disease and diabetes. Your emotional state, which is heavily influenced by your, let's call it, information diet, isn't separate from your body's resilience. They're deeply connected.
Okay, that connection needs a concrete example. Did the sources offer one?
They did. A really specific and quite revealing one, a study on married couples.
Married couples and inflammation.
Yeah. This research looked at how the typical communication patterns between spouses affected not just their relationship quality, but their actual biological health.
How on earth did they measure that?
Okay, so they took 42 married couples. First, they did baseline measures, drew blood to check levels of inflammatory markers, specifically something called interleukin-6.
Interleukin-6. That shows inflammation.
That's a key indicator, yeah.
Oh.
They also created tiny suction blister wounds on their arms to see how quickly their bodies would heal. Standard procedure for this kind of research.
Okay. Wounds and blood tests. Then what?
Then they had the couples discuss difficult topics, things they often disagreed on, and they observed and coded their communication patterns, how they argued or discussed things.
So they could see if certain argument styles were linked to, like, worse physical outcomes, higher inflammation, slower healing.
Exactly that. And the findings were pretty stark. Couples who typically used more negative communication patterns.
Like what kind of patterns?
Like the classic demand withdraw, where one partner pushes and criticizes and the other just shuts down or avoids. Or patterns where both partners just avoided conflict altogether.
Okay, what happened with those couples?
Those couples showed higher baseline levels of that inflammatory marker, interleukin-6. And maybe even more telling, their little blister wounds healed significantly slower than the wounds on couples who used more constructive communication styles.
Slower healing, just from how they argued.
Yeah, and these couples also reported feeling more negative emotions, fewer positive ones, and they rated their difficult discussions as much more negative overall.
So it wasn't just feeling bad emotionally during the argument. The pattern of negative interaction, the kind of information and emotional energy they were exchanging, it had a measurable negative effect on their body's basic functions, like regulating inflammation and healing.
That's precisely the implication. The negative communication wasn't just unpleasant, it was detrimental to their biological health. And the sources also mention, relatedly, that just bottling up emotions, suppressing that negative energy instead of processing it or communicating constructively, that's also bad for your health, possibly even linked to earlier mortality.
Wow.
It just hammers home that the quality of our information exchange, especially with those closest to us, isn't just about feelings. It has real physical consequences. Your mind and body are absolutely one system.
That's profound. It puts a different kind of responsibility on how we interact, doesn't it? The information environment we create.
It really does. Okay, so moving beyond just the individual's internal state, the sources also get into this fascinating area of connection and emotional contagion.
The idea that emotions can spread.
Exactly. And specifically, the idea that happiness seems unique in that it actually multiplies when it's shared.
Multiple.
Yeah. It's not just about you feeling good when you read some good news. The act of actively discussing positive experiences with other people, that's highlighted as being particularly powerful.
More powerful than just thinking about it yourself.
The research suggests so. Sharing it leads to heightened well-being for you, increased life satisfaction overall for everyone involved in the sharing, and even, apparently, a boost in physical energy.
But sometimes it feels hard to share good news, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There can be a real hesitation.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, the sources acknowledge this. People worry about seeming like they're bragging, showing off. Or there's that guilt factor, feeling bad about your good fortune when you know other people are struggling. Or there's so much bad news out there.
Yeah, that's real. Seeing terrible headlines makes celebrating a personal win feel almost wrong sometimes.
And the sources address that directly. They argue that especially when the world feels heavy or dark, recognizing and sharing those moments of light is crucial. It's not about ignoring suffering. It's about acknowledging that good things still happen, and they need to be shared.
So sharing your joy actually adds to the overall good rather than taking away from acknowledging the bad.
That's the message. Telling people about your happiness, about the good stuff, actually benefits your well-being and theirs more than keeping it private or just writing it down. Intentionally sharing your joy actively increases the total amount of joy in your circle.
Okay. And this spreading of emotion, it's not just face-to-face.
Not at all. The sources bring up that huge, now quite famous Facebook experiment.
Oh, right. The one with, what, almost 700,000 users?
That's the one. A massive scale. And it provided some of the strongest large-scale evidence we have for this emotional contagion happening purely through social networks.
And the really surprising part was
the core finding that kind of blew people away was that emotional states, positive and negative, could be transferred between users without any direct interaction. No face-to-face, no nonverbal cues like tone of voice or facial expression, just the text.
Just reading someone's status update could actually change your mood.
That's what the data pointed towards, yeah. What the researchers did was subtly tweak the amount of emotional content people saw in their news feeds for a week.
How did they tweak it?
For one group, they hit a small percentage of posts from friends that contained positive emotional words. For another group, they hid posts with negative emotional words.
Okay. And what effect did that have on what those users then posted themselves?
Well, when people saw fewer positive posts from their friends, they themselves ended up writing fewer positive posts and, interestingly, slightly more negative posts in the following hours and days.
So seeing less positive made them less positive and slightly more negative.
Yeah. And conversely, when people saw fewer negative posts, they responded by posting fewer negative words and slightly more positive words.
Okay, so it worked both ways. Seeing less negativity led to less negativity and a bit more positivity from the user.
Exactly. And the researchers noted this interesting inverse effect sometimes. Like, seeing less positive didn't just mean you posted less positive, but the proportion of your posts that were negative actually increased slightly. It suggested something more complex than just simple mimicry was going on.
And didn't this finding kind of challenge that common idea about social media? The whole seeing everyone else's perfect life makes me feel bad thing? Social comparison.
It did seem to, yes. In this specific context, the results were interpreted as contradicting those social comparison theories. The finding here was that simply seeing other people's positive posts was, on average, a positive experience for the viewer. It was when that positive exposure was reduced that users became less positive themselves.
So reducing the good stuff made people feel worse, essentially, not seeing the good stuff itself.
That was the interpretation here, yeah. Now, it's important to mention, as the sources do, that the actual effect sizes in this study were statistically quite small.
Right, tiny changes in individual behavior.
Very small, measured by something called Cohen's d.
Yeah.
We're talking like 0.001 to 0.02, a tiny, tiny nudge per person.
But the key was the platform, right? Facebook's scale.
Exactly. A tiny effect multiplied by hundreds of millions of users becomes, well, not so tiny anymore.
What did they estimate the impact was?
The authors calculated that back in early 2013, an effect size that small, just 0.001 on Facebook scale, translated to potentially influencing hundreds of thousands of emotional expressions in status updates every single day.
Hundreds of thousands a day, just from these subtle feed changes.
That was the estimate. So while the impact on any one person might be negligible, the aggregate effect across the whole network represented a massive, though subtle, shift in the overall emotional tone of online conversation.
That really puts into perspective the scale of influence these platforms have on collective mood.
Absolutely. And it has potential implications for things like public health, given everything we know about how emotions affect well-being. These online messages aren't just pixels. They influence our real-world feelings, which can then affect our behavior and even our physical health.
So emotional contagion is real. It works online through just text, and it operates at a massive scale.
That's the takeaway. It adds another layer to thinking about what you consume online and what you choose to put out there yourself.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about hope. This feels like a crucial piece when we're discussing navigating challenges and finding light.
Absolutely central. And the sources make a really important distinction right away. Hope, in the psychological sense, isn't the same as just being optimistic or wishing things will turn out okay.
It's not passive wishing.
No, not at all. One source defines hope very clearly as a specific psychological strength. It's not just a feeling, it's a belief system.
A belief system comprising what?
It's seen as having three key components. First, you need clear goals. You need a sense of what you actually want to achieve or move towards. Hope needs a target.
Okay, makes sense. You need something to be hopeful about.
Right. Second, there's pathways thinking. This is your ability to brainstorm and envision multiple, realistic ways to get to that goal. Strategies, routes, steps.
So not just what you want, but how you might get there.
Exactly. And importantly, multiple ways. Because if one path gets blocked, hope relies on believing you can find another. One source calls this way power.
Way power. I like that. It sounds active, strategic.
It is. And the third piece is agency thinking. This is the belief in your own capacity to actually take action, to initiate those pathways, and crucially, to persist when you hit obstacles.
Your belief that you can do it.
Yes, often called your willpower. It's that internal drive, that conviction that you have what it takes to follow through.
So hope is this combination of knowing your goal, seeing ways to get there, way power, and believing you can actually walk those paths, willpower.
That's the psychological definition, yes. And this is where it really diverges from just optimism.
How so? Optimism seems related.
Optimism is often seen as a more generalized expectation that things will probably turn out well, maybe relying on luck or external factors. Agreeing with statements like, in uncertain times, I usually expect the best. It's more about passive expectation.
Whereas hope is active.
Inherently active and internal, yes. It merges the willpower with the way power. It's not just expecting a good future. It's the active belief that you have both the means, way power, and the drive, willpower, to work towards it, even when it's tough.
Okay, that distinction feels really important.
It is. And the sources use a really powerful example to illustrate it. Martin Luther King Jr.
How does he exemplify hope versus optimism?
Well, the source points out he wasn't necessarily optimistic that he personally would reach the promised land, the full realization of civil rights in his own lifetime.
He actually said that, didn't he?
He did. He mentioned not being sure he'd get there with the people he was speaking to right then, but he was profoundly, deeply hopeful about the ultimate goal of justice.
So his hope wasn't based on thinking it would just happen easily or automatically.
Quite the opposite. He actively argued against what he called the strangely irrational notion that just the passage of time would fix everything. He said time itself is neutral. It could be used constructively or destructively.
So when he talked about the arc of the moral universe bending toward justice,
According to this interpretation, he wasn't describing some inevitable natural force. He was describing what people, through deliberate action and struggle, have the power to make happen. You have to actively bend that arc.
it requires work, effort.
Exactly. His hope was rooted in action, the persistent effort needed. The sources frame hope almost as a virtue, like love. Not just a feeling, but a conscious decision, something you build and strengthen, especially through hardship. It's what allows people to endure adversity with integrity, because they maintain that belief in finding paths forward and their capacity to act.
That framing hope as an active, strong virtue forged in difficulty, that's much more compelling than just think positive.
It really is. And this definition helps explain why hope is seen as such a critical factor for resilience and overall well-being.
How does it connect to resilience?
Well, studies consistently find that people who score higher on hope measures cope better with stress. Plain and simple.
Better coping. How else?
They tend to achieve more academically, professionally. They generally maintain better physical health, and they have a lower risk of depression.
Even when things get really tough, like
Yeah.
illness or job loss.
Yes, even in the face of significant adversity, serious illness, major financial problems, a hopeful mindset is correlated with greater emotional resilience. It seems the brain's reward systems, those dopamine pathways we mentioned, respond more strongly when you're in a hopeful state.
Giving you the mental energy to keep going.
Exactly. That surge helps provide the motivation needed to persist, to keep looking for solutions even when things look bleak. Hope isn't just a comfort, it's a vital tool for navigating difficulty.
Okay, so how does it help us navigate? What's the mechanism?
A core mechanism is reframing challenges. When you face a setback, a hopeless perspective tends to get stuck on the loss, the failure, seeing it as permanent or catastrophic. It's all ruined.
Right. Whereas hope encourages.
A different lens, actively looking for lessons learned, identifying maybe hidden opportunities that arise from the change, recognizing partial successes or things that didn't go wrong, even amidst the difficulty.
Like the example in the sources about Kim losing her job.
Exactly. The hopeless internal script might be, this proves I'm useless, I'll never recover. It's catastrophic, personal, permanent.
And the hopeful reframe.
It acknowledges the reality, okay, this is tough, it's stressful, but it looks for other angles. Maybe this is a chance to rethink things, explore a career that fits me better now. It separates the event from a final judgment on your worth.
That seems a lot like cognitive behavioral therapy techniques.
It's very closely related, and the sources mention CBT. It's about catching those automatic negative or defeatist thoughts. This is permanent, I always fail, and consciously challenging them.
Not replacing them with fake positivity, though.
No, not necessarily. Replacing them with more balanced, hope-oriented alternatives. So instead of, I always fail, maybe I've struggled with this before, but I've also learned things and overcome other challenges. What can I apply here?
It's about finding possibility within the struggle.
Precisely. One exercise suggested is to take a recent setback and literally rewrite the narrative. What did you learn? What strengths did you use? What new doors might open, even tiny ones? This actively builds hope by creating more constructive meanings.
Shifting the story you tell yourself about the event.
Exactly. And another really powerful strategy for building hope, especially when facing big challenges, is the idea of focusing on small victories.
Micro success.
Micro successes, yeah. When a goal feels huge, like climbing a mountain, breaking it down into tiny, achievable steps is crucial.
Why are their small wins so important?
Because each time you complete one, no matter how small, you get that little dopamine reward we talked about earlier. It reinforces your belief in your ability to act, your agency, your willpower. It feeds that sense of, okay, I can do this.
Like the example of paying off debt.
Perfect example. Thinking of the total amount can be paralyzing, but focusing on making one small payment consistently or hitting a tiny savings goal for the week, each mini success provides positive reinforcement.
It builds momentum.
Exactly. It creates a chain of progress that makes the next step feel more possible. It connects to that foot in the door idea from psychology. Achieving small things makes you more likely to tackle bigger ones. These quick, visible results build that crucial belief in your own effectiveness.
So even just, say, organizing one messy drawer can build hope for tackling the whole cluttered room.
That's the principle. It provides tangible proof that your actions matter, that you can make progress. Those small wins are the foundation.
Okay, this all sounds really valuable. The theory makes sense. But how do we actually do it? How do we make hope a practical strength in our daily lives?
Right, the how-to. The sources offer several really concrete, actionable strategies based on the research.
Let's hear them.
First, make those components real.
Yeah.
Clarify your goals and map out pathways. Pick a specific goal, like the source example of Sarah wanting to switch to nursing.
Okay, clear goal, become a nurse.
Then, brainstorm multiple realistic routes. What are the actual steps? For Sarah, it could be taking prerequisite courses, volunteering at a clinic, talking to nurses.
The way power part.
Exactly. Then select feasible actions from that list. What's a realistic first step? Maybe researching programs online or signing up for one volunteer shift. Break the big dream down into manageable pieces.
Makes it less daunting. What else?
Use mental contrasting with implementation intentions. This sounds fancy, but it's practical.
Okay, break that down.
First, vividly imagine the best possible outcome of achieving your goal. Really feel it. Then contrast that with the real obstacles you might face.
So visualize success, but also anticipate problems. Isn't that negative?
Not negative. Prepared. It's realistic. And then you pair it with if-then plans, implementation intentions. If obstacle X happens, then I will do Y.
Pre-planning your response to setback.
Exactly, like the academic example. If I get a disappointing exam result, X, then I will immediately email my tutor for help, Y. You have an automatic plan, so the setback doesn't derail you as easily.
Takes the panic out of it. Smart.
Very effective. Another strategy, hope journaling.
Like a gratitude journal, but for hope?
Kind of. Dedicate a few minutes each day. Note down small wins or micro successes. Reflect briefly on challenges, how you handled them or what you learned, and visualize future steps towards your goals.
So tracking progress and keeping the future in mind.
Exactly. It reinforces gains and maintains that forward focus. Also, actively work on reframing negative self-talk. Use those cognitive restructuring techniques we touched on.
Catching the I always fail thoughts.
Yes. Catch them, challenge them. Is that really always true? And replace them with more balanced, hopeful statements. This is tough, but I've learned from past struggles. I can start small and get support. It's about changing that internal narrative.
That inner voice is so powerful.
It really is. And crucially, surround yourself with hopeful influences. Curate your social environment.
How does that help?
Hope thrives in community. There's a synergy. Seek out people or groups that encourage problem solving, celebrate progress, even small steps, and maintain a constructive outlook.
Like the Andre example, joining the entrepreneurial meetup.
Perfect example. Hearing others' pivot stories, getting support, helped him shift from feeling defeated to finding new, hopeful pathways for his business. Collaborative hope boosts personal hope.
Your network can literally be a source of hope.
Absolutely. Their belief can reinforce your own. And the sources suggest integrating hope more broadly. Daily reflection on positives, using those if-then plans, physical reminders of goals, like a vision board, engaging with those supportive circles.
Okay, those are great mindset and social strategies. What about, like, physical stuff?
Yes, the sources cover that too. Self-care routines are vital. They preserve the mental energy needed for hope.
Like what kind of routines?
Mindful breaks, reflecting on positives. Maybe digital fasts from doom scrolling or constant stressful news, allowing your nervous system to calm down.
Digital fasts. Yes.
Yeah.
Seems essential these days.
Also, regular physical activity. We know it releases endorphins, but it also supports brain areas crucial for memory, emotional regulation, resilience, all foundational for hope.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Practicing self-compassion. Being kind to yourself, especially when you stumble.
Treating yourself like you'd treat a friend.
Exactly. It actually impacts brain areas related to threat detection. Instead of triggering alarm when you fail, it soothes that response, building resilience and a more positive inner dialogue.
Okay. And there was one more, slightly surprising one.
Yes. Support your gut health.
Gut health and hope.
Fascinating connection. The gut produces a huge amount of our neurotransmitters, like 90% of our serotonin, that mood stabilizer. So a healthy gut microbiome, supported by diet, fiber, probiotics, nutrients, can directly impact your mood and emotional stability.
Wow. It really is a whole body, whole life approach, isn't it? Mind, body, social connections, even your gut bacteria.
It's all interconnected when it comes to building happiness and hope.
Okay, so we've talked about the individual, the interpersonal, the practical strategies, but what about the world? It feels like we're living through some pretty challenging global times.
That's a critical point, and the sources definitely address it. The reality of global uncertainty, economic instability, climate change, conflict, polarization, it's overwhelming for many. It fuels anxiety, helplessness.
Yeah, it's easy to feel completely powerless faced with problems that big. Does hope theory even apply there?
The sources argue strongly that it does. Hope theory remains highly relevant, offering frameworks for both personal resilience and finding ways to engage in collective action, even amidst these massive stressors.
And what's the approach?
A key strategy is to consciously focus on your sphere of influence.
Meaning?
When global problems feel too big and abstract, counteract that feeling of powerlessness by identifying what you can directly affect, even on a small scale. Local action. Tangible impact.
So instead of despairing about global climate change, maybe focus on local recycling efforts or a community garden.
Exactly. Volunteering locally, adopting sustainable habits at home, supporting neighbors making tangible change, however small, fosters hope because it shows action is possible and your efforts do have results. Experiencing those micro wins locally reaffirms your agency.
Shifts the focus from the overwhelming to the achievable.
Right. And remember, collaborative hope. Hope is amplified in community. Finding or building groups with shared purpose is crucial.
Like-minded people working together.
Yes. Local initiatives, online support groups, community projects like the Repair Cafe example where people share skills to fix things instead of throwing them away. Seeing others act, celebrating shared small wins, it builds collective confidence and counters that feeling of being alone.
Makes sense. Community against the chaos.
And the sources also suggest reframing global challenges. Instead of seeing them only as triggers for despair, try adopting a challenge perspective.
Challenge perspective.
Viewing these big problems not just as inevitable disasters, but as potential catalysts for human collaboration, for innovation, maybe even for moral growth. It doesn't minimize the problems, but it reframes crises as calls for unity and creative solutions. That sustains hope.
Seeing the crisis as an opportunity, in a way.
An opportunity for positive change, yes. And finally, blending personal and collective hope. Aligning your own goals with contributing something positive to the community or environment.
Like the example of May starting her sustainable skincare business.
Exactly. Her personal aspiration is tied to a larger positive impact, eco-friendly packaging, fair trade. When her business does well, it's a personal win and a contribution to a better system. It reinforces hope because your individual success feels connected to positive change.
Makes your personal journey part of a larger, hopeful story.
It does. And this brings us right back around to where we started. In a way, the information we consume, our information diet.
And the idea of positive journalism.
Yes, the understanding that traditional news, while vital, often focuses heavily on problems, which can fuel that negativity and helplessness if that's all we consume.
So positive journalism aims to balance that.
It aims to challenge the purely negative narrative by actively highlighting positive stories, solutions that are working, people making a difference. It's about showing possibility alongside problems.
And this approach actually has measurable effects.
The sources cite research showing it does. It can increase audience engagement, people enjoy and share positive stories more. It can improve perceptions on complex issues, like the study showing positive stories about immigrants improved attitudes towards them.
Countering stereotypes with positive examples.
Right. It's also linked to enhanced well-being for the audience, counterbalancing the negative news effect. It can inspire people to take action themselves. And interestingly, it might even enhance trust in media by presenting a more balanced picture.
That's quite a list of potential benefits. Are there downsides or criticism?
Oh, sure. Important ones. Defining positive can be subjective. There's a risk of bias, glossing over systemic issues, focusing too much on individuals instead of systems. Superficiality is a danger. Needs careful handling and journalistic integrity.
Balancing positive stories with critical analysis is key.
Absolutely. But bringing it back to that good brain idea, the sources argue that a steady diet of positive information, even small things, helps transform our brains. And maybe the most powerful positive news is the stuff we choose to focus on internally. And crucially, the positive moments and hopeful perspectives we choose to share with others.
Our internal focus and our external contribution.
Yes. Actively cultivating that positive information flow helps create those optimal brain states, resilience, proactivity. It reduces the overwhelm from negativity. It takes conscious effort, having that vision, having ways to return to it when you get knocked off balance.
It really comes back to intentionality, doesn't it? Managing your mind, choosing your focus, interacting deliberately.
It does. The sources suggest that good habits, including the habit of feeding yourself and others positive, solution-focused information, can genuinely shape outcomes. The more positive information we integrate, the more our reality can start to reflect that inner focus, seeing possibilities, finding resources, feeling empowered.
And that idea that our present self is built on past information, but our future self depends on the information we choose now.
It really emphasizes that agency.
Mm-hmm.
Perceived limits, feeling stuck, overwhelmed aren't necessarily fixed. You can choose alternative perspectives, focus on pathways, and the implication is powerful. When enough individuals make that conscious choice, cultivating positive brain states and sharing hope, it inevitably contributes to a more positive collective reality.
A ripple effect, starting with individual choice.
Exactly, a positive feedback loop on a larger scale.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, first, good news isn't just nice. It has real, measurable effects, boosting helpful brain chemicals, shaping neural pathways, even benefiting physical health like immunity and healing.
And it's contagious. Happiness multiplies when shared, spreading through our networks, even online, influencing collective well-being.
Right. Then there's hope. It's not passive wishing. It's an active psychological strength. You need clear goals, you need to see pathways to get there, the way power, and you need the belief you can act the willpower.
And we can actively build this hope through practical steps like clarifying goals, planning for setbacks with if-then strategies, journaling small wins, reframing negativity, and connecting with supportive people.
Exactly. It's an ongoing practice. And these tools aren't just for sunny days. They're vital for navigating tough times and even huge global challenges. Focusing on your sphere of influence, finding collaborative hope, reframing problems as catalysts, these help maintain resilience.
So building a happier brain, cultivating hope, it's an active, intentional process. Choosing our information, our perspective, celebrating small steps, nurturing connections, focusing on what we can influence.
That sums it up really well. It requires conscious effort and practice.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, drawing on all this. If we accept that positive emotions, that genuine hope, are truly contagious, spreading through our connections, digital and real, then what responsibility might each of us have in actively contributing to that spread? How could that small victory you experienced today, that moment of light you noticed if you shared it with intention, how could that become a ripple of hope, however small, for someone else?